Endings are hard. Think of the thousands of authors who might have had a good story but really had no clue where the story was going, and so the end of the story just fell flat. This is all too present in TV, and all of us know this. Look at the show Lost, one of the most popular in the early 2000s. What the heck was that ending of that show? Or even a show like The Office, which kind of floundered at the end. And we're all looking at you, Game of Thrones. Now, this is true in TV, but it's also true in the world of writing, novels, and short stories as well. Harry Potter, I think, is as popular as it is because it had a great ending. And people love the work of Charles Dickens because I'm convinced he ends stories very well. But while ending a story can be immensely difficult, something that a lot of shows and authors, I think, are exceptional at is the cliffhanger. For some weird reason, authors thrive on being able to finish a chapter. Maybe not a story, but they can finish a moment or leave the audience dangling and wanting more, better than they can do anything else. In the example above, in the show Lost, I cannot tell you how often I talked with my friends in high school and college about this show and the direction that it was going in. Yes, it flubbed the landing, but Greatest Hits might still be one of my favorite TV episodes of all time. In the world of literature, this is no less present. Authors are really good at leaving you hanging after a chapter, or even just one book into another book. I think about the reading of, again, let's say Dickens or Dumas. They were really originally written as serialized formats, and so they would release a chapter chapter per week in a newspaper. And if you read that kind of work now, the cliffhangers at each of the end of the chapters is incredible. Dickens particularly seemed to relish in it, as he kind of also relished in being wordy in some of his novels, as he was paid by the word. But I would honestly love to go back into a time when we published novels more like serialized weekly episodes than just kind of a full, complete book. Maybe that will really revitalize the publishing industry just a bit. And I know there's tons of small, authors and novelists who are doing this with their stories, maybe on their Substack or whatever it might be. But I think that'd be so entertaining. And in the way of cliffhangers, there are a lot of authors who are doing it really well. Now, I just read Brandon Sanderson and I finished The Hero of Ages for the very first time. And he is absolutely exceptional at satisfying endings, but always leaving you wanting more. There's always another secret, as Sanderson fans quote all the time. And I found this writing to be thoroughly enjoyable for how he really arrives at the end and how he can kind of just leave you hanging, but still having you want more. And so in my extensive research on the topic, I found a Reddit thread where people talked about this. And the most upvoted answer of all was Storm of Swords by George R.R. Martin. And I haven't read that story yet, but when I start reading that, we'll see if I agree. But for now, I think the world has forgotten about what I just finished and what I think as the greatest cliffhanger in the history of writing. But the community who loves this work will probably berate me in the comments about how it's not really a cliffhanger because this author intended to publish all these books as one book. But I have to say, I kind of respect and love the publishers for breaking it up this way. Because J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings has one of the greatest chapter endings that I have ever encountered in my entire life. And it's the last moment of The Two Towers. No, it doesn't end like the movies, where Sam and Frodo are just kind of walking closer and closer to Mordor, and Gollum is plotting his revenge. Fast forward to halfway into Return of the King. After Frodo is taken by the orcs, when Sam rescues him from Shelob. And it's so good. And the last chapter just had me sweating and so nervous. I honestly don't know how more people didn't mention this in the greatest cliffhangers of all time. It didn't get a single comment in that Reddit thread, which to me is wild. I mean, do people even read anymore? But this is the background in this whole moment. So Sam, he stabs Shelob, and she goes back into her cave. Then he does something wild. He, thinking Frodo is dead, goes into Mordor, planning to come back to the body of Frodo after all is said and done, and he discards the ring. It's honestly one of the saddest bits of writing that I have ever encountered. But after he takes the ring, he's a bit trapped. There are orcs coming from both sides as he just tries to escape from the lair of Shelob, and so he does the unthinkable. He puts the ring on. And after he overhears one of the orcs talk about how Frodo isn't really dead, he follows the orcs through the tunnels of Shelob's lair. And Sam, at this point, is immensely strong as well. He just nearly killed the most feared being in all of Middle-earth, in my opinion. I think Shelob is the most feared being in Middle-earth right now. I don't really care about Sauron. I think Shelob gets that crown. And orcs are actually terrified at who this being is who took on Shelob. They say he's some kind of elf lord, and they call him more dangerous than any other damned rebel that's ever walked since the battle times, since the Great Siege. Sam is stronger in this moment than I think any other character is. And I made another video about it, and I honestly think he could probably take on Sauron and beat him in a fight in this moment. But the orcs are taking Frodo away, and Sam slowly starts to follow them, with the ring on. And I just want to read for you how this story ends. The news that his master was still alive roused him to a last effort beyond thought of weariness. He could not see anything ahead, for this new passage twisted and turned constantly. But he thought he was catching the two orcs up. Their voices were growing nearer again. Now they seemed quite close. "That's what I'm going to do," said Shagrat in angry tones. "Put him right up in the top chamber." "What for?" growled Gorbag. "Haven't you any lockups down below?" "He's going out of harm's way, I tell you," answered Shagrat. "See? He's precious. I don't trust my lads, and none of yours. Nor you neither. When you're mad for fun, he's going where I want him, and where you won't come, if you don't keep civil. Up to the top, I say. He'll be safe there." "Will he?" said Sam. "You're forgetting the great big elvish warrior that's loose." And with that, he raced around the last corner, only to find that by some trick of the tunnel or of the hearing which the ring gave him, he had misjudged the distance. The two orc figures were still some way ahead. He could see them now, black and squat against the red glare. The passage ran straight at last, up an incline, and at the end, wide open, were great doubling doors leading probably to deep chambers far below the high horn of the tower. Already the orcs with their burden had passed inside. Gorbag and Shagrat were drawing near the gate. Sam heard a burst of hoarse singing, blaring of horns and banging of gongs, a hideous clamor. Gorbag and Shagrat were already on the threshold. Sam yelled and brandished Sting, but his little voice was drowned in the tumult. No one heeded him. The great doors slammed to. Boom. Bars of iron fell into place. Clang. The gate was shut. Sam hurled himself against the bolten brazen plates and fell senseless to the ground. He was out in the darkness. Frodo was alive, but taken by the enemy. I'm sorry, I know there are Tolkien purists who will say he should have all published this in one volume, but I gotta say, the publishers and the editors sometimes know what they are doing. This ending is so good. And imagine reading this. I keep thinking about this, but imagine reading this, not knowing the movies, because the movies hadn't come out yet, obviously. This is years and years before. And not knowing any other part of the story, and having to wait for months for the next part to come out. Is Frodo dead or alive? The main character of the story might be gone, and Sam has to take the ring and the Phial of Galadriel, and he has to get through this gate. It's one of the best endings I have ever encountered in my entire life, and I cannot wait to start reading The Return of the King. And I'm reading it for the first time and publishing my thoughts on this channel. So I think you should subscribe for more of my thoughts and more, of my first time read. Make sure you also like the video as well, and as always, remember to look toward Numenor that was, and beyond to Elvenhome that is, and to that which is beyond Elvenhome, and will ever be. I'll see you in the next one.